Thank you, Rita, and thank you to Respond for nominating me for this award. I'm very honored. I guess I'll start with introducing myself. My name is Carina Veliz. I am a mother, entrepreneur, and a survivor of domestic violence. If you would have told me 5+ years ago that I would be where I am now, I wouldn't believe you. I'm very lucky to be alive today. I want to share a part of my story with you all. I'm actually going to repeat what I wrote for the event I hosted in October of last year. I was 14 when I met him. He was almost 5 years older, and that's when it started. I was young, fell in love quickly. My first real boyfriend. At first, it was nothing too physical. He would get mad. It would be a shove or telling me I'm not worth anything. As the years went on, so did the abuse. I got pregnant at 17. He told me to get rid of it. I said, no way. The one thing I didn't let him convince me to do. He never hit me when I was pregnant, but the verbal and emotional abuse was there. Every day, even the day I gave birth to our son. He told me he loved me. I gave him a child, but he still fought me, told me he cheated on me while I was pregnant because I was a whore. I wasn't a whore, but for some reason I believed him. The stress he put me through made me even lose my milk supply that was supposed to feed my son. I hated myself, even though I should have hated him. Despite it all, I moved in with him. That's what the physical abuse got worse. He would cheat, I would catch him, and I would get beat because I found out. It was my fault. I was looking for it. I cried and I had to get over it. Oh well, that's life. I'm not going anywhere. He was the best thing that happened to me because nobody else would want me. I wasn't worth anything. That's all he would say, and it's what I believed. At first, my son never saw the physical abuse. He wouldn't do it in front of him. The verbal and emotional he saw. He experienced it all himself. Including the physical firsthand from his father. I hated myself. I couldn't stop it. I was scared too. Years later, I had the final straw. And don't ask me how I even got the strength to do it. I kicked him out of the apartment we shared. I found out he was in a relationship with someone for 6 months and that she might be pregnant. It infuriated him that I had finally grown a backbone. I got the locks changed. He would stalk me outside the house, threaten to slash my tires, or threaten me by saying that when I least expected it, he would sneak up from behind me and cut my head off while I was walking into my apartment. I had started talking to another man 2 months after we broke up. Honestly, I don't know what I was thinking, but someone who I thought was a friend thought it was a good idea. She ended up backstabbing me and told him about the guy. He broke into the apartment in the middle of the night while my son and I were sleeping. And I woke up not being able to breathe. His hands around my throat, his dark eyes meeting mine. And I felt at that moment I was going to die. I couldn't fight back. I was scared. All I could do was try and grip his hands off my neck. He bit me, dragged me to the floor, slammed my head off the ground multiple times, punched me in the face, and then tried to break my jaw open with his bare hands. I had no choice but to yell for my son, who was asleep in the other room. He had just turned 5 years old. He came in, saw the struggle, and tried to fight his father off of me. Because of my son, he stopped, took my phone, and ran out of the apartment. Because of my son interfering, I'm alive today. I couldn't see, I couldn't talk, My mouth was filled with blood. My tongue had started separating from the bottom of my mouth from him trying to pry my mouth open to break my jaw. Scratches on my face from him squeezing my face so hard as if he were trying to rip my face apart. Eye black and blue and swollen shut from him punching me. I was dizzy, feeling woozy. He hit my head too many times on the floor. I later found out that I had a concussion. I had no choice but to lay in bed, cradling my son who was traumatized, and try and reassure him that mommy was okay so he could fall asleep. I won't continue on with this story because it's very long, but to make it short, I never went back. I got out, and I continue to file restraining orders to protect me and my son every year. As you can see, I experienced all forms of abuse. They come in verbal, physical, financial, emotional. Victims can experience one or a few or all of these forms of abuse. Just because your abuser does not physically put their hands on you does not mean that there isn't domestic violence in your relationship. I used to ignore the facts and think my abuser would change. And because of that, the last physical encounter left me beaten with a concussion and led to me and my son living with PTSD and trauma till this day. The physical is no longer evident, but the mental damage we still have today. Well, more on a positive note. A few years later, after I left my abusive relationship, I decided to go to the gym. It was my safe haven. I ended up becoming a personal trainer and developed the business I have today. The gym made me feel powerful, both mentally and physically. And I wanted to help other people feel the exact same way. Without naming anyone, I have been able to use my platform to help other victims of domestic violence share their stories or even seek refuge from their abusers. I am able to help these people because I have overcome and become stronger. I'm so grateful to be in the position I am today. Well, thank you all for listening, and thank you to Respond for giving me the opportunity to be able to share my story.